everybody. My name is Devinne Moses, and my talk today is 12 months, 12 games, 12 lessons. And this is going to be me talking about what me, Vinemoss Studios, and what our big experiment was for 2025, which was a game a month. And so I'll give a little bit of context. I am a narrative-based game designer, game developer of writing origins. And so a lot of the games that I create are art-forward interactive experiences is how I define it. But in this talk, I will talk a little bit about me and why you're listening to me. Thank you for doing that in the first place. A little bit more about Vinemoss Games, and I will go through the 12 big lessons that I would say that I've learned and would like to share through the context of the games that we've created this past year, and then do a little quick summary. I will note that because it is 12 games, there isn't a lot of time to go through all of them in depth, so it will feel fast. By all means, take pictures, ask questions afterwards, but I will try to keep it speedy as much as I can. But a little bit about me. I did my undergrad at Duke in English, psychology, and creative writing, and so my background is really about creating stories that are about authentic personhood and what it means to be human, and how do we create really engaging interactions and ones that are very different from what you would see maybe in the games field, maybe back in the day. Now there are a lot more branching opportunities for conversation and complexity without necessarily having it be just storytelling in and of itself. That is over there, Imogen, which I did at my master's program at the NYU Game Center. And there was the first opportunity where I could apply storytelling and writing through a games medium in a way that I had never experienced before. Imogen is about a divorced couple grieving over the loss of a loved one. And that heavy topic was, I think, the perfect opportunity to merge gameplay and what it means to tell a human story in a way that only games can. And so I'll talk a little bit more about Vinemoss Games soon, but outside of Vinemoss Games, I am a pixel artist for Turbo, which is a 2D game engine in New York City. There I've collaborated with Cool Math, Latinx in Gaming on some social promo content, as well as Playcrafting and Play NYC. Play NYC 2025 was a hit, but it is a very great opportunity to get indies involved any way that we can. And then I also have been a scholar for Game Devs of Color in Amplifying New Voices, which is the Academy of Arts and Science, which does a lot of funding for GDC and helping game devs get to the level that they would like to reach. And other than that, I do some like personal pixel art stuff with Devinne, but that's a little bit about me. You're here because Vinemoss Games made a game a month, and as I mentioned, we are a narrative studio that is focused on telling imaginative literary stories, and literary stories are essentially, in our eyes, experiences that focus on character over the overarching plot and really are unafraid of exploring what it means to be human and using games as the medium to do it. And so we have 12 games already. Night Owls was our first test project back in October 2024, which when you think about it like that, only a year ago, but so much has happened, so many games have been made. And the bottom one in the corner is the one that was demoed today within rotation, if you had a chance to play very early, but that's the next one coming out, and we have another one in December. So I will go through those 12 games now, and again, they will have lessons attached to them that are pretty quick, but I would like to share as much as I can for each game. And so I will present a lesson, so scope, and my big tagline for it to easily remember. So lesson 1, scope seriously. And I think this is one of the more important ones where I really wanted to make sure all of the projects that I created had very concise timelines and content, and in terms of what I was working on and what I wanted to reach. And balancing all of that was difficult at first, especially when you really want to put everything that you have like dreamed of in your head into the game, but knowing that you only have a limited amount of time. And for us, a game a month meant that we had to really be concise. So Night Owls is 20 minutes, and it is very restricted in how we present the game. It is a mix of a couple of choices, but you really are experiencing a story, and you really have only a set amount of actions to do. And for us, that was the best way to release the game with all of the things that we had in mind. And as you work either solo dev or on a small team, you have to consider what smaller projects mean for your different game leads. So an artist that is spending time on their project will have a different amount of workload versus a programmer spending time on a month-long project, and what that means and how do you differ your timeline to adjust and account for everybody's different needs. And I think the big takeaway of how much content you have versus how difficult to implement that content often gets, I think, not the attention it deserves, because as somebody that is a writer, I can write a lot, I can write pretty quickly, but maybe when it comes to programming, I need to invest a lot more time, and that ends up taking a lot more time for the project in its entirety. So that is scope. And on to lesson number 2, build up and out a toolkit. I think this was super important for me to figure out. And I have a little acronym of what I deemed was useful to share, which is WATER. And that is the websites and apps that I use consistently when I'm creating a game and what I'm like gathering research for. And so thinking of whether it's Pinterest or apps like Procreate and Godot, my game engine of choice, making sure that that is always the foundation so that I don't have to worry about those things when I'm actively in development. Templates and exercises are great examples of using what you have relied on in the past to better enhance the next game. And so templates as in a dialogue manager where in time on distance is a conversation between two people that really needs a dialogue manager because there's a lot of lines of text. And so building that out, making sure that it works and it's robust enough that I can take it and use it for other projects, made the whole development process easier on that front. And I could worry about other things and experiment on other things that I wanted to. Exercises are good for like creative purposes, where thinking about characters and doing character studies, having your tried and true exercises that help you brainstorm, help you get over those initial humps of what is the story that I'm trying to tell, has always been useful. And routines really is the thing that you know that you're going to do for the first week of game development, second, third, fourth, however long your timeline is. I know that brainstorming and not working in engine is how the first week goes for me, especially when I know that I can really get caught up in trying to do an experiment in the engines too quickly and then end up not prioritizing the story or the artwork or whatever it may be. So always be confident in the toolkit that you've built up. And if you're confident in your foundation, you're able to chop and change and reach out for things that you want to experiment with and develop. So that's your toolkit. Next one, lesson 3, look at games through an art lens. And I think Doppelspeak, our February game, is a great example of that, where it is a collection of art panels with different camera angles. And that is a very meticulous process that we really enjoyed working on, but it is very much art forward and is acknowledging that game development can be used in ways that are unconventional or unusual. And so I think as a game developer, I would like to say that I'm an artist first. And being an artist is, I think, what drives me to create all these different experiments, because you rely on so many different avenues for inspiration. And so I would say if you are thinking of it as an artist, you can embrace a lot of the things that is heading our way as game developers. With the advancement of a lot of technologies that make things really efficient, you realize that there are a lot of traditional artists that still use very meticulous methods intentionally and end up creating something that they otherwise would not have. So that's, I think, super crucial to keep in mind, where if you imagine yourself as a painter with a brush and you go stroke by stroke creating a canvas, you are an artist that is very intentional with the experimentation that you're presenting to whoever your audience is. And that's how we are approaching game design, and how Doublespeak ended up being a very art-based game, but one that we're really proud of. Lesson 4, present and put a show on for your players. So I always am appreciative of everybody that comes by and sits down and plays that game that we're showing, and I would like to say thank you a million times, but what is a really great tool is the game that you're showing. And so immediately when they press start, I want them to have a showcase, a spectacle, that they realize that, oh, I'm sitting down and I'm immediately being repaid for their trust in playing this new experience. And so Mind Anatomy is a great example of that, where you are presented with a man overthinking a date that went pretty okay, but the whole presentation is told through cards, and the whole story is told through cards, where you are flipping different choices and you have different characters that reappear, and it's always that constant flipping that might seem a little tedious, but ends up being a very significant effect that players have taken away and really appreciated. And I want that to be from the very beginning of the game, from the title card all the way to the end, where everything is intentional and everything was meant for the player in mind, thinking that, oh, this is an experience that I'm happy to try out for the first time. So I think the work around your core gameplay is just as important, where the text, the options menus, the control schemes, those need to be super intentional, and I think for me, visually appealing, so that every aspect of the experience your player can't knock down, saying, the game was great, but there's that little options menu thing that was a little finicky. I think that's really helpful and puts a lot of effort and emphasizes the effort that it takes to be an indie game designer, but also a game designer that is wanting to do something different. All right, lesson number 5, locate your project's stars. This is mainly holding on to the core moments of your game that you know are significant, that you know are exciting, and making sure you're treating them as they are the thing that people will sit down, look at, and their mind expands. And Hold On is our April game, where it's a game about hugging, and the true purpose or the reason why you're hugging isn't really revealed until the very end. And that's very much done intentionally, because this grand reveal and the whole purpose of this game, I want that to end when you reach the end, rather than be introduced to crumbs of, oh, what's going on? Oh, is it about this? Too early. And we have a tendency as developers, at least I do, where I get really excited and I want to show immediately that excitement to the player, but it ends up taking away from what that grand reveal deserves to be and wants to be. So I would say make sure your own excitement for the game that you're making doesn't get in the way of the actual game and how the game flows. And that's, I think, in regards to how you speak about the game, how you have playtests in regards to the game. You can tell your audience, the project stars, or your game does this, your game does that. But if they are not experiencing it in the way that you want it to, it can overall devalue that experience. So that's lesson 5. Lesson 6, personal experience drives impact. And so Remember Me Before Andromeda was our May game, and it is very much shaped by personal memories of talking with childhood friends and reliving those types of memories. And I use those in the game, where it's a collection of 4 very distinct memories about a particular person, and I think the story is one that resonates extremely with players, where friendships and the idea of connecting can be pretty universal, but the more specific we are with it, and the more we draw from our own experiences, that's where it ends up being the most impactful, because people can look at those very specific moments and realize, oh, I exactly know what you're talking about. And yeah, that's the way Remember Me Before Andromeda goes, and how I encourage game design when you're thinking of stories, thinking of storytelling, and appreciating that narrative designers and people that are looking to tell human stories can draw from their own experience and the people that they love and hold close. We're halfway there. Let's do a quick stretch, but thank you for bearing with me, and let's keep going. Lesson number 7, don't develop games alone. I think this is a common one, especially if you're a solo dev, that you like the ability to control how your game works, how you tell your story, your own timeline, and I think that often gets confused with I have to like close away from the world and not talk about my game until it's ready, or not share my game until I'm certain that everything I want it to be is perfect. And I would say to that is making games is one of the best things in the world when you know you have other people to talk with, when you have other people to make it with. And the key solo dev shouldn't be silo dev is something that I hold close to heart, where even if I'm working on a game alone, knowing that there are people that maybe are in game development, or maybe that respect the work that I do, that they will be there to help me playtest, help give advice, and overall help me better shape the game that I'm making. But Seconds Between Summer was actually our first game where it was developed with our collaborating artist Estelle right there, who's a brilliant, talented artist, and made all these different panels. And I don't know if you can see the difference immediately, but they look really great. The characters are well defined, and overall enhances that story where people come by, look at it, and see a whole new world of characters and connections. So you can have a project that you want to create, and knowing that there are people out there that either will support you or will help you make it should always be remembered, because I think that's, again, one of the best parts about game development. You can do it together. You can work on solo projects, but be parallel working alongside other people, making really cool games to share with people. All right, lesson number 8, cut content quick and early. This is one of the lessons where I had to learn through experience of not doing this, especially because the whole idea of Vine Moss Games is that it's a very ambitious goal of doing a game a month. But confusing that with overestimating what I can actually physically do was more common than I wanted it to be, but I think it's something that it is important to learn and realize that you can be very ambitious but still be reasonable and also healthy and managing your time in a way where you're still experimenting but taking care of yourself, right? After Wonder was our July game and was a great example of me being super ambitious and overestimating, where I thought this entire arcade cabinet you see could be totally playable, and each button does a different thing. And I wanted to create a little playground of sorts, in addition to creating the story that I'd set out, where it is an interactive dinner date between two people through an arcade cabinet. And I quickly realized as I was developing that I wasn't going to do that. No way, no how. But I set up this button layout first, because that was the thing that I was most excited about, the one that I wanted to like really go for, because I knew it was going to take time to figure that out. But I realized that all of that work was probably not necessary, and I found ways to use those buttons for different things, but overall I could have spent less time on that part and maybe focus a little more on the other features that I had worked on. So I'll say not every feature that you think of when you're thinking of the game that you want to create is essential. You have a lot of opportunity to cut down. I would just say do it immediately when you're done brainstorming. That's a great exercise to try out, where you have your whole plan, you have your own design document, cut like 25% of it, see what that means and how that feels, and realize that, oh, that 25% might not have been necessary to begin with, and now that I have more time or that I've built the thing I wanted to make, I can re-implement that other 25 and see how I can best incorporate it into this game that's very well established now. So that's lesson number 8. Lesson number 9, your past work doesn't define your future work. I think that it is really easy when you get good at doing a particular part of game development or a particular type of game that you stick with that and you rely on tools that have worked in the past and have led to a lot of success. But I think it also influences how you think of the future. You always want to create something exciting that engages people, but that doesn't also mean that you have to use the tools that have served you in the past. Liminal Strangers is our game poem that isn't playing super well right now, but it is an interactive game poem about two people connecting, and it is two strangers that are walking by, and there's always an opportunity to reach out and say hello or make that connection, but we rarely do that. And I love the idea of that, and I wanted to go for it, but I wanted to do it in a very experimental way, where there is no text in this game, and the only controls that you have are 2 arrow keys, and the characters are kind of walking back and forth, which, like, you hear that and think, how is that going to be an experience that is, like, worth my time? But I was really happy to spend time with the art and really creating an experience that is, I think, unlike anything I've created in the past, and one that presents itself as a really resonant story about, yeah, we as humans need to connect more, and there's so much potential in talking to a stranger. So overall, when you have ideas that you know have worked, consider dropping them for ideas that you know are unfamiliar and unknown. Make room for the unknown. I think that strengthens us as game developers and makes for better games that are pushing our own abilities and what we see in the industry. All right. Lesson number 10, know when to change directions. And so I call this the pivot pulse. You're always knowing that, okay, things I don't think will go the way that I think they will because of whatever is going on, life, whatever it may be. And I think that knowing that you don't have to be super hard-headed about it sometimes is I think, going to help me for the rest of time. Incoherence was a great example. This was our September game, and the idea of it was a man on a train exploring different locations. The people that he interacts with don't speak the same language, and in order to maybe decipher what they were saying or create that connection, there is a puzzle sequence that you go through. And as you went from puzzle to puzzle to puzzle, you would uncover more about who this man was, why is he on a train in the first place, what that even story looks like. And I was really excited about going in it in that way, but soon realized that for somewhere or the other, that wasn't going to happen. I do know why. The puzzle mechanic aspect took way longer than I thought it would, but it was especially something that I'm happy got into the game, and it was something I was trying, but that didn't leave a lot of time to create that structure and create that narrative that I really wanted for that original version of the game. And so I pivoted, and now Incoherence is a collection of 3 different levels that don't rely on the tethers of that narrative, overarching narrative, to create that story, but offers you a glimpse of 3 different moments in time for this one character, and you're puzzling it together on your own. And so I think overall, that experience taught me that I can pivot a lot sooner than I think I need to, and make something that is very different from all my other games, but also people have really enjoyed the puzzles, and to be able to drop in, play whichever puzzle they want, drop out, and try it again some other time without having to go through the entire narrative again. While I do admire and respect having narratives that are linear, having that type of gameplay was also useful and have served me really well for incoherence. Last note on this, you have the ability to, I have the tendency to realize that, oh, this isn't going well, I'm going to try something else. Or that thing that I tried something else isn't going well, let me do another thing, and we kind of like jump. And that is a tendency, especially when you're starting out and seeing that it's not working, that you jump ship. I would caution that and say, persevere a little bit, see what the issue that you're working around is, whether it's something technical or story-wise or timeline-wise, but it's a distinct difference that we all have to learn about what is not working at all and what is something that we can tough out a little bit. All right, lesson number 11, document all your work. I know I've talked your ear off going through all 11 lessons, but this is the one I think is the most, impactful for me. I write devlogs, I record snippets of all my gameplay, and you can see No Room for Sharks. This top GIF is a early version of what this movement system looked like. And I also do a retrospective, and I try to capture different points of time for my games. And I think the lesson I learned is that for the October game, No Room for Sharks, I was prepping for other conventions and doing other life things, and I kind of skipped out on the devlogs in a way that felt weird because I had done them all throughout the year, but I realized that I don't have what I felt during the first couple of weeks of that game, that I can't look back on that anymore. And while I'm really proud of the game, I would have really liked to have a better sense of maybe what I was feeling or what were the highs and lows during development. And to have it for all my other games will always serve as a touch point of what are the patterns of, dang, this part of game development is really challenging, or the running joke between me and my creative partner is I always wait till the last minute to like get those final writing parts in, and so seeing that through the devlogs is always really funny, but also useful for when I'm maybe not doing a game a month and realize that, oh, I can better incorporate tools to be more efficient with my writing, or focusing on writing and not doing anything else for a little bit, whatever it may be. Documentation helped me realize that. And the big takeaway phrase, documenting is developing. You can make a game, but if you don't have writing for it, it's only semi a game. Even if that feels irrational, I think thinking about it in that way only helps you, because that means you're going to prioritize writing things out, getting really good at that, and making sure that at any point you can see how you're feeling, how development was going, and make better games because of it. All right. Last one is develop fun. And I think at the end of the day, I want to make games that are only engaging experiences for people, but are also fun to develop. And that means being experimental and seeing what art style is what I'm trying to capture. And Within Rotation is the game that we're currently working on at Mouse Games. It involves gumballs, and each gumball is tied to a specific character. We have a huge cast of characters. It's a bit more lighthearted, but still emphasizes the idea of chance encounters using a gumball, which you never know what you're going to get. And it's a lot of fun to write for. And game development is not only a lesson, but just a joy to have the opportunity to create something that incorporates so many different elements that I get to share with people. And I have a lot of fun with it. There have been a lot of challenging moments, but to be able to share it and have fun doing so is one that I will always try to remember. All right, so here's this final recap of all 12 lessons, and I know that I did speak for quite a long time. Do take pictures of this, and also the things that are useful for